Nice to meet you. Sir, how will the firing of James Comey affect U.S.-Russia relations?
Как повлияет это увольнение на двусторонние отношения?
Увольнение?
Увольнение.
Да никак не повлияет.
There will be no effect.
Ваш вопрос выглядит, вы меня не сердитесь, пожалуйста, он выглядит смешным для меня.
Your question looks very funny for me. Don't be angry with me.
Мы не имеем к этому никакого отношения.
We have nothing to do with that.
Президент Трамп действует в рамках своей компетенции.
President Trump
Конституции и законов.
is acting in accordance with his competence and in accordance with his law and constitution.
Мы здесь при чем?
And what about us? Why we?
Я вот видите, в хоккей собираюсь играть с любителями.
You see, I'm going to play hockey with the hockey fans.
И вас приглашаю.
And I invite you to do the same.
I'll be here and I'll be watching. Thank you very much.
Мы будем обязательно смотреть. Спасибо.
All right, there you saw Liz Palmer getting, you got to get the news when you can, the interview when you can. President Putin there playing hockey, dressed up as he always does, whether he's doing judo or horseback riding. He plays the part. He's got the attire. And Liz is joining us now on the telephone to take us through what she got from the president and what we can expect to see on the front pages in Russia over the next couple of days, Liz. So that meeting, that interview, that very brief interview that you did with the Russian president, perhaps you can just take us through it because we weren't able to hear the sound as well.
Well, the Russian president is making absolutely sure that there are no Russian fingerprints on anything to do with the firing of James Comey. He said it's a domestic affair. It's the prerogative of the American president to make personnel changes, and we don't think it's going to affect Russia-U.S. relations.
And Liz, you were giving us a debrief of that interview.
Yes, President Putin made it quite clear that Russia doesn't view James Comey's firing as having any bad effect on Russia-U.S. relations. He said it's entirely an American matter. It's the prerogative of the U.S. president. And in fact, I think your question is rather amusing. I'm so relaxed about it. I'm here to play hockey. Certainly the Russians don't want to give any excuse to be seen to be anywhere near this. They are very sensitive about the fact that they've been named as meddling in the U.S. elections, having hacked into U.S. emails, and they are now afraid that President Trump, even if he wanted to reestablish good relations with Moscow, isn't able to anymore because the mention of Russia is so toxic. I spoke to President Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, after I spoke to the president, and he actually said the word toxic when he referred to Russia's brand, if you like, in the United States. He said, we are going to have to wait this out. But we're very sad because at the end of the day, what we do want is good relations with the United States, but he allowed that they look a long way off at the moment.
You know, when Sergei Lavrov was asked by a reporter about the firing of FBI Director Comey, he said something to the effect of, I thought this was a room full of adults, sort of indicating that he felt it was a childish question to ask. How is the Russian media presenting this, the interest that we have here in the United States, the investigation into Russian meddling into the 2016 election?
It's not a front page story. It's seen as a big move for people who watch politics closely. But frankly, most Russians are not paying attention to the inside baseball, as they see it, of changes inside the Trump administration. Political analysts will be writing more in the next few days about it, and I'll have a look at those stories and try and bring you a précis, because obviously how the Russian establishment sees this will be very revealing. But for the moment, it's not a page one story.
All right, Liz Palmer joining us from Sochi, Russia, where, as you can see there, she just spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin and asked him some very serious questions, the questions that a lot of people here in this country have. Let's play a little bit of that interview so you can hear exactly what Liz asked the Russian president and how he responded.
U.S.-Russia relations.
Как вы влияет это на двусторонние отношения?
Увольнение?
Увольнение.
Да никак не повлияет.
There will be no effect.
Ваш вопрос выглядит, вы меня не сердитесь, пожалуйста, он выглядит смешным для меня.
Your question looks very funny for me. Don't be angry with me.
Да, мы не имеем к этому никакого отношения.
We have nothing to do with that.
Президент Трамп действует в рамках своей компетенции.
President Trump
Конституции, законов.
is acting in accordance with his competence and in accordance with his law and constitution.
Мы здесь при чем?
And what about us? Why we?
Я вот видите, в хоккей собираюсь играть с любителями.
You see, I'm going to play hockey with the hockey fans,
И вас приглашаю.
and I invite you to do the same.
I'll be here and I'll be watching. Thank you very much.
Мы будем это.
All right, so there you saw Liz talking to Russian President Vladimir Putin. She's on the phone with us. Liz, yes, we still have you. Yeah, hi.
I was just going to say, so unconcerned did he seem to be that he went out on the ice and scored a couple of goals.
Oh,
Now, that may not surprise
I was going
you.
to ask you if he won. I don't know if he's still playing, but as I understand it, he typically wins whenever he plays.
Scores a couple of goals,
yes.
And not hard when you're the strong man of Russia. But I want to ask you, Liz, give us a sense of how you got this interview, how you were able to get in that tunnel, because it looks to us like you're the only reporter there.
Mm-hmm.
We had originally asked to speak to the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, and the only time that he could find for us was when he happened to be in Sochi with President Putin, who was here to play in an old-timers hockey league tournament. In fact, some of the great NHL players were on the ice as well that I remember from my childhood. So it was kind of an all-star cast out there. And then at the last minute, they invited us down and said, would you like to ask a question to the president? And, of course, there's only one question on the big news agenda today. And they said, okay, you stand there and wait for him to come out on his skates. He's going to be on his way into the player's box, and you just doorstep him. And I did. And he was very happy to be recorded with his answer.
And Liz, one of the things, I mean, I know we've talked about this initially when we first connected with you, but it's a question we had with Julia Yaffe, who's a writer at The Atlantic, who I'm sure you know. She has covered Russia for quite a long time, and we were very curious to know how this is playing out, this story of Comey's firing, but not just what we heard last night, the story of the hack into the American election in 2016, how that story has been playing out across the airwaves and the newspapers in Russia. Certainly, we guess that the partisan press, the press that is in the pocket of the Kremlin, will not be too judgmental, but I'm wondering about some of the independent reporters that are in Russia. How has this story been playing out with them?
Well, there is the mainstream media, which is controlled by the Kremlin, and it follows the Kremlin line, and it's a flat-out denial. We had nothing to do with it, where our reputation is being besmirched, it's not fair, and so on. But, you know, Russia has a very sophisticated IT community. It has a very sophisticated online community of all kinds of people, political, IT, and so on. And there is very frank discussion about who might have been behind it. And maybe more interestingly, whether this group of hackers is disciplined enough to continue to take orders from the Kremlin, or whether they'll go off and freelance and just be making a mess here and there in order to score political points or through some anarchist agenda of their own. That is a very live discussion on, say, Russian websites. In the mainstream media, though, as I say, all you hear is, we didn't do it. How dare you? It's not fair. And now we just have to wait for America to come to its senses.
There will be no
All right.
Elizabeth Palmer,
Elizabeth Palmer.
I'm pretty impressed with that interview.
So we should also thank Liz for that, because that's a huge get at this period of time when everybody has these questions about the Russians and specifically Vladimir Putin. Also, we can report to you, this is coming to us from where, Control Room?
The Russian media, I think, on Twitter.
On Twitter is saying that President Putin scored 7 goals.
No surprise there.
I'm not a hockey fan, so I don't know if that. I guess that's a lot, right? That's
yeah, that's pretty impressive. But
and like even if you look at on the Kremlin website, the interests of Vladimir Putin, in addition to hockey, sambo and judo, skiing, ice hockey, animal protection. There's a whole bunch of things that he does.
I'm sure he wins all those other matches as well.
He does win them. We should also point out that this interview and Liz Palmer will be on the CBS Evening News tonight with Scott Pelley at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so you won't want to miss that.